Good evening, everyone. So today we have gathered here to understand what exactly is privacy, its rights, why it is important, what are the different benefits that are attached to it, and then why, as an organization, it is very important for you to comply. So this is why we are gathered here today, and thank you so much for joining. And moving forward, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kartik Verma. I'm a senior data protection consultant here at Tsaaro. I have joined Tsaaro 1.5 years back, and I've been working, regularly with regards to privacy program implementation, conducting gap assessments. So this is what my background is, and moving forward, I hope my experience can help you out in some way or the other. And looking forward, you can take some understanding and start your journey with regards to data privacy, and that's why we're here. So I'll tell you what Tsaaro Academy is. So, starting off, there was the idea that, we want to make privacy learning and skill and basically upskilling in privacy as easy, like over something over the top. The things that we wanted to deliver was, quality, helping people understand exactly how they need to do their work. Our job here at Saro Academy is to provide the right training. Throughout our journey, we are the official partners of IAPP. We are the official training partner of PECB, and we have partnered up with DSCI to provide training. So we have international, affiliations with regards to our courses. And moving forward, I just want to add a bit disclaimer. The discussion and the aim of the webinar is it is there to help, it is there to provide recommendations. It is at the very basic level, it's statement and opinions that are expressed. Then moving on the agenda. So today we would be discussing privacy compliance, importance of privacy compliance, key principles of privacy, data privacy strategies that are out there. When you're implementing a privacy program, as an organization, what are the different things that you need to look at. Then we discuss why organizations needs to comply under GDPR. That is the right to compliance under GDPR. Then we discuss what are the different fines for non-compliance. And moving forward, as an organization, if you're looking forward to privacy program, what are the different steps you can take? First of all, to get into the field of privacy and upskilling yourself. So I just wanted to start the session with defining data privacy itself. See, data privacy refers to the protection of personal information, including information that is something that can be used to identify basically the personal identifiers that are out there, such as their name, their address, their social security number. This is considered as PII. This information can be collected by businesses, and it is organized. And aside from businesses, different organizations, government agencies, and again, once they do that, it is their responsibility to ensure that this information is kept secure. So, one of the most significant developments that happened with regards to data privacy that happened in recent years was the advent of the General Data Protection Regulation in the European Union. So when this regulation came into effect in 2018, it gave individuals greater control over their information, their personal information. And what it did was it imposed strict requirements on the organizations that were collecting that data and processing it or storing it. So at the end, once the GDPR came in, the requirements for the organizations to comply with laws were made explicit. So now organizations had to ensure they had that additional requirements so that they could comply with the GDPR, or moving on, then other regulations that came out. So if you're looking at it from a perspective of organizations, compliance with data privacy regulations such as GDPR, it brought about a significant change. See, it required organizations to now build up a robust data protection measure, and then it wanted the organizations to have that ability to demonstrate compliance. Aside from that, now organizations must also be prepared to respond to potential data breaches. Then they need to respond to individual rights. That is the data subject rights that have that are presented to the individual data subjects on the GDPR. Individuals now have once the data privacy is moving forward, individuals have the right to object to processing of their personal data as well, and to complain to supervisory authorities if they believe that their rights have been violated. So this is what I understand from data privacy. And moving forward, we look at what privacy compliance is. So if you're trying to understand the word privacy compliance, it is, first of all, it's really important to understand what are the different requirements. See, compliance is always with regards to a particular regulation or a particular law. In that case, first of all, it's important to adhere to that law. It's important to first of all understand what are the different requirements that are associated with it. So if you look at compliance from a general perspective, compliance refers to the process of adhering to laws, regulations, related to protection of personal data. And aside from that, this includes ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and the availability of personal data as well. So it's important for organizations, from a compliance perspective as well as from a business perspective as well, that they adhere to those provisions. They add on to those technical and organizational measures so that they are protected, and they are trying to ensure the best industry standards that are out there are already implemented to make sure, at the end of the day, the data subjects data is protected and it's secure. Aside from that, furthermore, I believe that privacy compliance is something that gives you a competitive edge. See, more and more organizations out there that are collecting data, but what sets you apart is your seriousness with regards to different compliance measures. So at the end of the day, if you are serious about your privacy, if you have implemented certain measures which ensure that at the end of the day the data subject can feel secure when he's sending forward his data to you, you would automatically be a league apart from your competitors. This is what I feel with regards to privacy compliance. Then moving on with regards to, see, obviously, since privacy, if you're trying to get your organization compliant to privacy regulations, what are the different privacy regulations that you need to be on the lookout for? So naturally, we started off with discussing GDPR. And again, I just want to give a brief background to it. GDPR was the regulation that came into effect in May 2018. It strengthened the protection for individuals within the European Union. It gave citizens more control over their personal data and how it is being used by companies. So, if you're looking at some of the key aspects of GDPR, it includes right to access, giving out the data subject rights, ensuring a notification timeline is there enabled on the organizations in case a data breach happens, the 72-hour timeline. Aside from that, there are regulations that, like the PIPA, there is the UK GDPR, then there's the California PIP-EDA, then there's the Australia Privacy Principle 2014. So these are the famous regulations that are out there with regards to an organization that is either dealing with residents belonging to these countries or is directly operating out of one of the countries but has its operation based in some of the other place. In that case, all these applications, or sorry, all these applicable regulations would apply on you, and you would have to ensure that you fit the necessary criteria, or you at least fulfill the necessary compliance requirements to ensure that at the end of the day your organization does not incur penalty and is not in non-compliance with any of the provisions. Okay. Since we are discussing, what privacy compliance is, it's naturally very important to understand why an organization, needs to opt for privacy compliance. Basically, what are the different aspects attached to privacy compliance? You have to look at an organization's data breach practices. You have to understand what are the different security measures implemented within an organization. And first of all, if there are, you have to conduct regular risk assessments to understand what are the threats associated with that security measures. Aside from that, what are the vulnerabilities with regards to your infrastructure that can be exploited? In the end, the importance is that you want to make sure that your organization is protected at the best level of measures. Aside from that, it's not dealing with regular breaches, and there's so definitely whenever a data breach happens, what happens is the organization, first of all, aside from the loss of personal data, there's the financial loss, then there's the legal loss, because the data subject, as a data controller, you have a responsibility with regards to respecting a data subject's privacy. And in case the data that you collected got breached because you didn't implement the right measures, the data protection authority would naturally hold you non-compliant and provide you with hefty penalties. And at the end of the day, since as a data controller, you want to comply your organization, and if you are a data consultant, you want to comply a certain organization to different provisions, this is something that you have to opt for. You have to look for the weaknesses within the infrastructure and assess what are the different vulnerabilities associated, and then accordingly build a remediation plan so that the organization can, at the end of the day, achieve compliance. Aside from that, what privacy compliance does is it improves and maintains a brand value. Aside from that, what we already discussed, since you are serious as an organization that you want and you have ensured, you have taken additional steps to ensure the data subjects rights, and data subjects data is safeguarded, it's protected. That builds a certain level of trust and loyalty with the customers. And that is why privacy compliance is very important for organizations. So with that, we discuss the key principles of privacy. See, naturally, since we are looking at different aspects of privacy, it's important, first of all, to understand different principles. So basically, when GDPR came out, it gave the idea to different other nations as well. So if you look at it, if you look at all the different regulations that are out there, more or less their key principles and ideology is the same. It's just that their provisions might differ, and their local laws might make it, might make some things a bit different. But at the end, the core concept and the core idea is the same. So if you look at the key principles of privacy, we start with lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. So it means that when we're talking about lawfulness, it means that any collection, use, or sharing of personal information, it must be done in accordance with the law. So this includes that at the very start, when data collection is happening from individuals, the data the data subjects are informed about it, and they ensure that whatever the data, the organization ensures that whatever the data that they're collecting is being used for specific and legitimate purposes. If you're talking about fairness, this means that the collection, use, and sharing of personal information must be fair. It must not be prejudiced against the rights of an individual. So this includes being transparent about the types of information that you have collected, how will it be used, as well as giving individuals the opportunity to opt out of that collection and the use of that particular information. When we're talking about transparency, this means that organizations must be open and honest about the data collection, and the usage practices with regards to that data. This includes providing clear and easily understandable privacy policies that you see at the bottom of every website that you visit on the internet. Aside from that, in terms of services, it also includes, when we're talking about transparency, it also includes giving individuals the ability to access and collect their personal information. Then moving on to the next principle, that is of purpose limitation. This means that organizations must only use personal information for the specific purpose for which it was originally collected. This ensures that the personal information that is being collected is not misused or mishandled. Then we talk about data minimization. This means that the organization can only collect minimal amount of information necessary to carry out a specific purpose. So this means that if you go back and as an organization you identify that you are collecting certain information which is not relevant to the particular activity, in that case you need to go back and realign that process in such a manner that that data collection does not happen. Aside from that, we discuss when we are discussing accuracy, this means that information must take that organizations must take certain reasonable steps to ensure that that information that they have collected is accurate, it's complete, it's up to the date. Aside from that, when we're discussing storage limitation, this means that the organization must not keep information, the personal information, for any longer amount of time than it was originally required to, until unless there are some laws associated to it. But this means that organization must not keep in personal information for longer than it is necessary to fulfill the specific purpose for which it was originally collected for. Again, then moving forward with when we are discussing integrity and confidentiality, this means that an organization must take certain steps to ensure to protect the integrity and confidentiality of a person of personal information of a particular data subject. So this includes implementing appropriate technical measures and organizational measures to protect that particular personal information, such as encrypting your servers. Then, when we're discussing the principle of accountability, this means that the organizations must be accountable for the personal information that they collect. The whatever information that they collect first, then whatever processing that they're connecting on that collected information, how they're storing it. This is what you need to consider, that you are following the 7 principles of privacy. Then obviously, since we are discussing implementation for an organization, it's naturally very important to discuss the strategies that go behind it. So whenever an organization is implementing privacy program, the strategies might differ because the problem for each and every organization is unique. Every organization is collecting data, is storing data in a unique manner, and that's why their problem also is unique. So naturally, there are several different strategies that an organization can implement to protect personal information and comply with different laws that are out there. But one common strategy is that the implementation of data protection and data protection policies and procedures. This is something that every organization needs to do to comply with any applicable regulation. There's certain mandatory documentation that needs to be there. Aside from that, there are certain mandatory procedures that needs to be there. Aside from that, what happens is every organization that is implementing a privacy program needs to go back and conduct a risk assessment. See, at the end of the day, you have to go back and check what are the different procedures that are there within the organization that needs correction. Aside from that, organizations can also consider implementing privacy technology solutions, such as ensuring pseudonymization is something that is happening, ensuring anonymization is something that is happening. If there's some sort of database, in that case encryption is something that is happening. It's a mandatory requirement for most of the regulations that are out there, that you need to have a dedicated data protection officer appointed. Aside from that, you need to understand your data, you need to know your data, you need to understand how your data collection is happening. So you conduct a data discovery, you populate a data inventory, you understand how that data is being stored, how that data is being used. Again, based on SaaS-based product, based on a business solutions company, you need to understand your requirements accordingly. Aside from that, once that is done, like I was talking about it earlier, you need to conduct a risk assessment. You need to understand, you need to analyze what are the different risks that are associated with your organizations and your implemented practices as of right now. Aside from that, you need to create a dedicated data privacy policy. So when I'm talking about data privacy policy, what this means is it's a collective term talking about the website's privacy statement, as well as the cookie policy. Then there's the internal policies as well. Aside from that, you need to establish certain procedures. So when I'm talking about procedures, what this means is, in case a data subject request comes in, you are not responding it on a request basis. It's aside from that, what happen? On the other hand, what should be the ideal way? The way should be that whenever a request comes in, there's automatically a workflow that is created. There's a dedicated policy there with regards to the data subject rights management. Aside from that, a dedicated workflow that, in case a request comes in, how the same would have to be handled. There's a established procedure for that. So this is a requirement. Aside from that, implementing certain data privacy controls, like implementing the provision in the necessary provision of GDPR, that is with regards to data breach, that in case a breach happens, the notification, the initial report needs to be sent out within 72 hours. So implementing controls like this has to be one of the privacy strategies that an organization needs to look at whenever they are going for compliance. Okay, moving on. Since we discussed, why privacy program needs to be implemented for an organization, and we discussed the strategies behind it, it's naturally important to understand the roadmap. The roadmap that goes behind implementing a privacy program. So, a privacy program, like we discussed, is a set of policies and technical measures that organizations put in place to protect personal information. The implementation of a privacy program, it involves several key steps, including conducting an assessment, developing and implementing policies and procedures, training your employees in such a way that they're informed and knowledgeable about the different privacy practices, and in case of a breach, how they need to what is the employee code of conduct, adhering to that. Aside from that, implementing technical and organizational measures, then conducting your regular monitoring and review. So whenever we're talking about privacy program, the first step is always to conduct an assessment about the organization's current data practices. So this gives you the current standing, like as an organization where you stand. If you're an organization that's beginning from the scratch, your first activity would be to understand your data flow. So understanding the type of data that you have moving forward, once you have a good idea of exactly what data sets are there with regards to a particular organization, you move on to the other aspects, like creating a ROPA, conducting impact assessments for the high risk activities. Then, once the assessment is complete, the organizations can accordingly develop and implement the policies accordingly. Aside from that, employee training is also one of the key aspects whenever you're looking at a privacy program. So employee training is a critical component of any privacy program. Employees should be trained on organizations data privacy policies, data privacy procedures, and understand their role in protecting the personal information. Aside from that, when we're discussing regular monitoring and review, it's important for an organizations to, like we discussed, to constantly update their privacy practices. So starting off with implementing a privacy program, the organizations have to ensure that first of all, they appoint a DPO, a dedicated DPO. Then starting off, they need to understand what data that they have to do that, to know your data basically, like we discussed. They need to maintain a personal data register. To do that, they need to conduct a data discovery. What GDPR and other privacy regulations did was they made sure that whenever data was being sent forward to a country, to a third world country, or to a country which does not have adequate level of data protection laws or a dedicated data protection authority, it implemented certain measures that needed to be done. before that transfer actually happens. So in case an organization is dealing with cross-border data transfer, they need to make sure that they have the necessary documentation and the assessments to make to at the end of the day justify that particular data transfer. Aside from that, you as an organization need to communicate your data protection policies to your data subjects. Usually how that is done is through the website's privacy statement and the cookie policy with regards to the data collection. There's an XYZ organization in India. It is processing data of a company based out of Italy. In that case, yes, the GDPR would still apply. GDPR is not restricted by territorial jurisdiction. Another important requirement is to appoint a data protection officer. Organizations that process personal data on large scale specifically, or organizations that process sensitive personal data, are required to appoint a DPO. This person is responsible for ensuring that the organization is compliant with GDPR and that the rights of individuals are protected. See, under GDPR, organizations must be transparent about their data processing activities. So this means that organizations need to provide clear and easily understandable information about how the personal data is being handled within the organization. And this is why the website's privacy statement is really important for an organization. So organizations must also ensure security of personal data is there. This is how usually an organization ensures this by implementing appropriate technical and organizational measures to protect personal information. And these measures could be like how we discussed: encryption, using secure servers, ensuring there is regular testing and monitoring that is happening with regards to the implemented firewalls or your antivirus systems, or your patch management systems. It is really important for these organizations to protect personal data of EU citizens and meet the standards of GDPR. Moving on, since we are discussing compliance in such a manner, we also need to understand, in case an organization is found not compliant, what would be the steps that they need to do, or what is the penalty that is associated to it. So that's why penalty is one of the most important activities whenever you're looking at the compliance. So organizations that fail to comply with the requirements of GDPR, they are subject to significant penalties. The penalties for non-compliance with GDPR, it includes administrative fines. Organizations can be fined up to 20 million euros, or 4% of their global annual revenue, whichever is higher. So for serious breaches of GDPR, such as failing to obtain a valid consent for collection, usage, or sharing of personal data, it would levy a hefty penalty. So why it is important for learners to start a career in privacy. So firstly, see, the field of privacy is constantly evolving as technology and data collection practices advance. So this means that a career in privacy offers a wide range of opportunities to learn and grow. And if you look at it from a roadmap perspective, so you start at the very beginning, that is to develop the knowledge. That's why that's the whole aim behind Saro Academy. We are here to develop the understanding fundamentals to conducting the day-to-day activities of a privacy professional, to helping them understand their key requirements from a solution perspective as well.Moving on, since I mentioned that it's very important for a privacy professional to constantly upskill themselves. So this is how you do that. You can opt for certain certifications because this is that label that you took. You went back, you did your research, you did your study, you gathered knowledge, you passed a certain test. If you are going for a CIPM certification, this gives you a top level approach of how management of a privacy program needs to be done from a management perspective. So it teaches you the how of a privacy from a technology perspective. So it helps you implement technology in the application itself. So let's say you're developing a SaaS based product. CIPT is the course that you need to do to understand how privacy should be followed in the development of that particular product. If you are an organization that is dealing with health data, so whenever we are dealing with health data, it is considered as sensitive in nature. So protected health information, there's a course associated to it. That is the HCI SSP certification that is administered by the ISC. It says that it teaches information security professionals about how they can protect the health information, or how the same has to be regulated. Aside from that, how can Saro help? So the CTDPO course that we devised, the three stages, the CTDPO foundation, the CTDPO intermediate, the CTDPO practitioner. We have partnered with different tools like DiveBill for the data discovery solution, and we have partnered with Privado for privacy by design. So we teach privacy then from a solution angle. We teach how data discovery is and how it needs to be conducted from a tool, how what privacy by design is, how it needs to be conducted from a tool. So this is where Saro comes in. The other, aside from that, if you feel that you need, if you have any questions with regards to how you can upskill yourself, how you can, take that journey forward. If you're looking to change your domain, or if you're a college student just thinking out that you want to become a privacy professional, you can contact us on the phone, or you can contact us via WhatsApp. You can contact us in any way that you feel. And I hope and my experience, my knowledge only elaborated your interest towards privacy, and you would take that necessary step moving forward. Thank you so much for joining.